All right. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the Derelict Building Grant webinar. My name is Z Chen, and I am a planner at the Mid-Iowa Planning Alliance, or MIPA. Earlier this year, we assisted the city of Roland in a successful application that was funded through the Derelict Building Grant. So today, we have a webinar that brings together all the partners that made it all possible. We have Shelly Codner of Region 12 Council of Governments, also of the Iowa Race Exchange, and Reid Bermel of the Iowa DNR, who will introduce the Derelict Building Grant Program. And we also have Dalton Johnston from City of Roland, who will share his recent experiences throughout the grant process. At the end of their presentations, we'll have some time for Q&A. After today's webinar, the presentation slides will be available and the recording will be uploaded to MIPA's YouTube channel. So with that, I'll hand it off to Shelly to start her presentation.
Thanks so much, Z. Greatly appreciated. I am trying to find my presentation now, but I will say I am going to be brief. I'm going to give you an overview of what the Iowa Waste Exchange is. I'm not going to talk too much about the details of the Derelict Building Grant because I don't want to steal Reid's thunder or Dalton. I'm not going to talk too much about their successes either. And I recognize a lot of folks, so good to see you. If we haven't met before, it's nice to meet you today. The Iowa Waste Exchange is a free, confidential, and non-regulatory program of the Iowa DNR. It's administered regionally through councils of governments. So I know that there's some councils of governments on today, so thank you for joining as well. What we do is connect cities and schools, nonprofits, businesses, anyone that really calls us to find outlets for their waste materials so that they're diverted from the landfill. And I know a lot of the cities on today are on my resource list. If I have something pertaining to cities, I'll send it off to you all and then you contact me. The primary focus, of course, is economic. We're helping our communities in Iowa stretch their budgets, reduce their landfill waste, build ongoing and lasting partnerships. And I am very thankful for the many partners that I have that have made the Iowa Waste Exchange successful throughout the years. What we do specific to just cities, as I stated, we have that huge audience of folks that we work with, but I wanted to be a little more specific since this is primarily a target audience of cities and then city resources like the COGS and MIPA who assist the cities. So what we do, the Iowa Waste Exchange specific to cities, is help locate materials needed for public projects, lumber, fixtures, furnishing, storage equipment, anything from, stuffed animals for a holiday event to give away to larger things like wastewater treatment materials and chemicals. Primarily, I would say 80% of what we do as cities is match furniture, fixtures, and equipment like copy machines, office desks, shelving, um, all of those type of things. We assist with waste reduction planning, reuse initiatives, and community collection events. For example, let's say that your city would like to have an e-waste collection event. We will assist with that in the planning of that and find markets for that material. Or you're having your citywide cleanup days and you want to add appliances to that. We can help you not only on the ground, we can come and assist at your event, take names, what have you, but also find markets for those appliances and whatnot on the back end. We offer presentations and educational programming. I know that I've been to city council meetings, some of them actually that are on the webinar today, to give some educational programming, city staffs and councils about sustainability and reuse. Libraries, we do educational displays or make and take reuse workshops. Really will cater to whatever the library wants. Fire departments, nonprofits, and schools in your communities, we help them. I actually was up at Garner this morning. They're doing a full scale rehabilitation and remodeling of their schools, and they have truckloads and truckloads of resources that are available to folks. Um, we support local events, any type of local event, whether it be you're having a fall festival. We will come and help in the area of waste reduction and resource conservation. We have matched a lot of materials to cities over the years, so many so that when I tried to pull up the report yesterday, it kept timing out. So there's been thousands and thousands of matches and thousands of presentations working with your local organizations, Rotary, Lions, library, Friends of the Park, all of those type of things. And we love to do those. Um, City match successes. Again, there were thousands of matches in the database. But the bottom line with those successes is that they've helped those cities reduce landfill disposal fees and also hauling expenses, while also giving a second life to some of those materials that others can use them. Increase reuse and recycling of materials within your cities, also saving budgets and putting that money towards infrastructure and other things that you need to do. Um, Support local schools, nonprofits, and city departments. Specifically in the corner there, you'll see a picture. This is one of my very favorite matches that ever happened, and it's coming out of the city of Altoona, which is not a rural community, but we can do this in rural communities as well. They had some turnout gear that had expired for its purpose, and they had a lot of turnout gear, and they needed to find a home for it. And the Iowa Waste Exchange hooked them up with a company that made bags and accessories from that turnout gear. The sales of those went to fund the firefighters fund that helps those that have lost a spouse or those firefighters that have been injured in duty. So that was a really satisfying type of match. Revitalization of city facilities and public spaces. If you look in the middle, those are all too familiar to many of us, sandbags. And these are the kind of things that I really enjoy helping the cities with. We, during the flooding, which we've had a number of floods over the years, but in this particular instance, the city of Ames had an excess of sandbags because they didn't get hit with the floods as was expected initially. And so they had an excess of sandbags. And so I contacted all of the cities that were experiencing flooding, and Iowa City came down and loaded up a semi-load full of these sandbags to take back to Iowa City to help them with the waters, to keep the waters under control. So that's a great match too. We saved funds on both ends, the city of Ames and the city of Iowa City. Um, the very far picture with the water bottles, that was also coming from a flood event. And one of the cities had an excess, which was wonderful, that folks donated all this water for flood victims and for people sandbagging. But they had an excess. They had a warehouse full and they couldn't use it all. So we matched that up with smaller cities that were experiencing those disasters. And also a good portion of it went to the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure, and they utilized that during their event there. So all of this, basically in a nutshell, is creating stronger local partnerships by sharing resources, but also saving local budgets. And again, using that cost savings to fund some infrastructure and some other projects like revitalization. With regard to the derelict building program, and again, I don't want to steal any of Reid or Dalton's thunder, but the Iowa Waste Exchange plays a very specific role. Each partner plays a very specific role. Cities identify the potential project sites and their local priorities and determine if they have the resources. And then COGS, each city, many cities are members of their COG. And if you don't know, you likely know if you're a member of a COG. And if you don't, the Iowa League of Cities, you can Google it. And they have a wonderful map. MIPA, who is not a COG, but works directly with cities, similar to a COG. They're an affiliate. If you are one of their communities, that is also on that map. So the COGS and MIPA work directly with cities to develop and submit the derelict building grant applications. They provide technical assistance and planning for that writing portion of the grant, the technical assistance and getting it in on time and getting all the signatures and everything that's needed. Those COGs and the city sometimes contact the Iowa Waste Exchange, and we support those efforts by going on site, identifying divertible and reusable materials, finding markets for those materials, and calculating potential tonnage and cost savings that result from redirecting those materials other than the landfill. So together that we all work to ensure that every project is not only environmentally sound, but it's financially smart and it's community centered. It's helping your community. So again, if you're working with the Iowa Waste Exchange for derelict building programs, contact your COG or MIPA first, whichever COG that you belong to discuss the grant process. And then the COG or MIPA will contact the Iowa Waste Exchange to assess the reuse potential and help calculate diversion and anything that is waste reduction related. We will assist with the technical side of that. For your other city needs, cities, libraries, schools, fire departments, nonprofits, or you can refer us out to your local businesses. You can contact us directly to find materials that you're looking for, find a home for materials that you have, to give workshops, presentations, or make and take events, or partnerships with special events. So I appreciate working with all of the cities and my COGs in my area, as well as our entire team, which is made up of 4 of us across the state of Iowa. You can contact your specific representative at iowawasteexchange.org. There's a form that you can fill out and we'll go directly to your representative. Or if you would like assistance in finding who that is and you don't Google, you can definitely contact me and I'll get you in touch with that person. We're going to save questions till last, but again, I just want to thank you all. Thank you, Z, for hosting this today, and thank you all for attending, and I continue to look forward to working with you all. And I think Reid is up, right, Z? Yep, so.
Yep, thank you, Shelly. Reid, feel free to share your screen.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you wanted Dalton to go first or myself, but yeah, I can. Let's see here. Is there like I thought I saw it to take over. Is that where?
There should be a share at the top, Reid.
All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Reid Bermel. I have about 25 years of experience, of environmental experience. The last 4 now, almost 5, I think, has been working specifically with the Iowa DNR's Finance and Business Assistance section as the in the Derelict building program. Let's see. Hopefully, did that work? Can everybody see that? I lost sight of you guys, so I need an audio if you can.
Yep, yeah, you're on
Okay, and
presenter
it's just a
mode.
slide. Okay, awesome. So again, as Shelly mentioned, the main thing that I've been was hired to do. I used to work air quality for a number of years, and I been taking over the Derelict building program. Also, I do the food storage capacity grant, and I also, on top of that, administer the DNR end of the contract with the Iowa Waste Exchange, as Shelly mentioned. It's through funding of the DNR that we subcontract through, happens to be Region 12, that then administers the day-to-day, if you will, carrying out of the Iowa Waste Exchange that you just heard of. And then, unfortunately, we lost a great team member, passed away with environmental management systems. And I have also been tasked with administering her weekly, or not weekly, biannually meetings or for funding. And so I do a lot. So fun fact, last year I wrote and or was part of 173 grants that went out the door of our section. 143 of those were food storage capacity. Then there was approximately 14 of those that I wrote also for Derelict building, and then sit on a few other review committees for those others. So I think there's around 250 work days in a year, and basically a grant was going out the door 2 out of every 3 work days that I definitely was a part of. So it gets to be a lot and everything. So I try to stay upbeat. I always try to have a dad joke because I think it's fun. One of the things that I feel that I can is dependable on my body is my fingers. It's something I can always count on. So if you maybe getting some eye rolls, or hopefully that gave you a light chuckle. They have to be city-owned or commercial industrial. We do not deal with residential. There is one small caveat to it. It is if you do have those retail buildings that have apartments up on the top, that second level of housing can be wrapped into the project. But outside of that, we do not deal with single-family structures, and we do not deal with privately owned businesses, if you will. The project was started in 2011 with a successful pilot project. City of Seymour, Iowa. The mayor down there at the time reached out to the DNR, just felt that they had this building that never quite fit any other program, was fairly active and vocal from what I understand, and indicating that, hey, you know, some of us out here in the rural communities, we could use a little boost and some help. And so Scott Flagg was the original manager. I'm the second manager of this program. They put their head, Scott and the powers that are, or that were at the time, they put their heads together and came up with the Derelict Building Grant Program. Again, the way we look at it, we're helping cities address the environmental issues of the building. And by doing so, a lot of times your benefits are your economic benefits and so on and so forth. So that's the way we are approaching it. As of today, with the last funding round, we have had 351 applications, and 187 of those became projects in 142 different communities. I do have some examples on a few slides up ahead. So there are different projects where you can cities will do multiple buildings. They might do 2 buildings in 1 year. They may have projects down the road. There may be some of you that don't have much of a budget, so your project would actually be phased out. So maybe you do a part of your project in one funding year and then come back the second year and ask for more funding. So there's a lot of different approaches to how we can come alongside and assist you on that. How the grant program is structured. Currently, I have $400,000 that is each fiscal year. The priority of the program, again, is to increase landfill diversion through recycling of those. So a lot of it, what we want to do is, again, try to keep as much of that material out of the landfill as possible through those efforts. So again, it partners very, very well with what Shelly was saying with the Iowa Waste Exchange and the efforts that they have. Funding available. Again, this is a reimbursable in 7 different areas. I'm going to hopefully flip screens quick on you. I failed to see if I can find it. I had a worksheet here or our brochure that lists the different ones and kind of those funding levels. And the quarters, there we go. So everybody still see that? The new screen? Can I get a thumbs up or?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so the assistance type. So again, certified asbestos inspection. We will pay for 100% of that. There's no max cost on that. So it is by the regulatory side of the DNR, you have to have your building inspected, your commercial industrial building. On that removal, if they identify the asbestos, we will pay up to, let's see, we'll pay for 50% of the costs that exceed 10,000. So essentially what we're saying there is we pay for the first $10,000 of that, and then we go halves on it. So if your removal is $20,000, the DNR can fund you up to a max of 10,000 and then another 5, so 15,000, and the city will only have to pay for 5,000 of that asbestos removal. Structure engineering analysis. If you have a building that essentially you're not sure if it's worth saving, again, we are just looking at the bones of the building, so to speak. So is the foundation good? Are the walls, does the roof need replacing, or is the rafters, are they still good and just need new, subroofing and materials on that sort of thing. If you're not sure, we'll help pay for an engineering analysis up to $1,500. Phase 1, phase 2 environmental assessments, depending on other funding and environmental hazards. If you're getting loans, a lot of times those banks require some type of risk assessment, want to know what's there. So again, you can see here on the phase 1, we pay 100% up to $3,000. On the phase 2, we pay up to that $5,000 reimbursement or whatever. 50% of that. So it'd be $2,500. And then the thing is, on any of these, anything that goes over that, it's the responsibility of the city. But the biggest 2 areas that we get the most requested is building deconstruction. If you notice, I did not say demolition, because demolition or demolishing a building is knocking it down and hauling it to a landfill, and that's not what this program is about. We are about deconstructing, which is the dismantling of the structures with the purpose, again, of maximizing our recycling and reuse of those materials. So essentially what you want to do is you want to go 50% on that. And then the more that you keep out of the landfill, the more money comes to the DNR side with a max cost of $50,000. And this is a little bit deceiving because the way it really works is if you can get 71% of your material out of the landfill, we will pay for 3/4 or 75 up to $75,000. So I like easy numbers. So if your deconstruction costs are $100,000 to take down your 100-ton building, and you had a 75% diversion, then there's a sliding scale in your grant that would come, and we would pay for $75,000 of that bill. And then the city would only have to pay for $25,000 is how it works. And then again, building renovations. This is also one of our most popular, as you can see, roof replacement, building stabilization, tuck pointing, so on and so forth. There's a lot there. And we reimburse 50% up to 500,000, or excuse me, $50,000. So if your building renovation again cost 100,000, we will pay for that. So let me slip back into presentation mode here. I know I'm going through that fairly fast. Eligibility. Again, I mentioned it briefly at the beginning of the conversation here that it has to be city owned or in the process of owning it. I'm very straightforward when you ask and call questions. Shelly did mention in her presentation, get a hold of COG and then them. At the end of this presentation is also my contact information. I am one person for the whole state, but if you do call me, I'm more than happy to visit with you and literally give you the same speech or talk that I give all the cities, because I want everybody to be successful. I want my review committee to have a very hard time to determine who should actually get funded in that. But one of the things is it's really to your benefit. You're probably thinking in the back of your mind some of those city buildings that you have in town, like those nuisance buildings or privately owned ones that you're thinking about, well, should they turn it over or shouldn't they? If I can tell you outright, when it gets down to it, it's pretty split in hair sometimes on who gets funded and who doesn't. And if a city owns the building by the time that they apply, that is going to be more favorable for you. Again, it doesn't disqualify you from getting funding, but it just is one more step. If in your process, in your application, you're describing that process of saying, hey, we are working with the lawyers and we will have, possession of 101 Main Street by the 1st of June. There's no real guarantee in that, but again, it's just better if the city owns it up front. But again, if you are in that process, and the deadline is last Friday of February of every year. So if you don't quite have it yet, that's okay. Still apply. You just have to do a little bit more work, a little bit more description in your application. The building must be abandoned for at least 6 months. On that seems fairly straightforward. We do get a few inquiries once in a while, like, well, hey, it's abandoned, but we keep the city's Christmas decorations, if you will, up in the front half of it. Yeah, for the most part, that's, again, abandoned and everything. But we did have one during the time of COVID that applied. Due to separation distances and what have you, they reopened it and we're running classrooms out of it. That did not qualify, because if people can go in and inhabit that building throughout the day, is it really derelict enough? So again, I mentioned those nuisance buildings, more than welcome. Again, you just want to try and be working towards having that ownership so that you can score higher. Able to reclaim materials for reuse. That's where Shelly and the other 3 gals really come into use, or are a big part of this process, the way I see it. When they reach out to you, you're like, well, we got these, brick, wood, steel, what have you, are the most common. That's their bread and butter. That's what they do. They are very familiar with the areas near you. They can make those connections. Again, I can't stress it enough. Shelly or any of the other coworkers that she has, it's free and confidential. So you want to get them involved on that part for sure. They can also help you figure out those markets and how much you have, because that's part of the application. We don't hold you to it. We don't say, you say, well, Reid, we have 100 tons of material, but when it comes in, it's only 80 tons. We don't hold you to that. Well, no, you said it's 100 tons, but at least it gives us a ballpark. A couple of years ago, we developed what's called a building materials calculator that all the Iowa Waste Exchange reps use. It's fairly easy and simple. So as long as they're out there and have the basic dimensions of the building, they can type in what those materials are, and this calculator, if you will determine how much material is there. It's a very slick and useful process. Buildings cannot reside on the historical register. That is also known as SHPO, which is the State Historical Office of Preservation. The reason for that, again, this was determined before I was there. Have taken this position, but a lot of these buildings, if it's on the historical register, that's just more hurdles to go through. A lot of times they're trying to preserve a certain look or what have you of your downtown, and so that can really slow down these projects. It can really delay the time and the cost, add more layers to the onion, if you will. Most of these projects, when you all do them, you're going to have one fiscal year for the most part to do it. Not saying that I can't give you extensions, but the idea is we're coming in, we're getting you that funding, and then come July 1st, you got contractors lined up, and away we go, because we want to address the issues. Applicants are more than welcome to partner with any local nonprofits for those to help out and assist. Again, I can't stress it enough. City owned by the time that the grant start date. That will be July 1st again. Application requirements, we want to know the history of the building. We see it all. We see it all when those applications come in. We see some that, will only write 1 or 2 sentences, and then we see some that, write an encyclopedia. My advice, somewhere in between. On most of the projects and applications, probably a healthy 1 to 2 paragraphs so that we get a general idea. We don't need to know year by year everything on the building, but if it was historically a retail shop, and then maybe they put a gas pump out front, and then it was a local hardware store, that sort of thing. But again, we just want to make sure that we're capturing the right information without overdoing it or underselling it, for sure. Those projects that are successful, they are the cities that have planned. And what I mean by that is they have the plan in place for that deconstruction or renovation. When you can identify what's going to be going in there, that I'm going to jump ahead down to, it says letters of support. So if you know that, hey, we need to renovate this building and we have a dentist that wants to move into town, that's great, and that's going to score a little bit higher, if you will, again, than somebody that says, well, we hope to renovate and, hopefully have it for retail. It might not score quite as high because, again, at the end of it all, everything's so competitive, good markets, good plans in place, have the bids, the letters of support, and we have to figure out on some end of it how to actually rank them at the end. So if you have a plan and it's laid out, again, if you're a city that doesn't have a lot of funding, and you say, well, Reid, we want to come in and we want to do that asbestos inspection and abatement the first year, and then on year 2 we plan to come back for our renovation activities, and you lay that out in the first application, that will score very well too, because again, we can see that you're being very thoughtful, that you have a plan and a vision for your town. Identifying those reuse markets and building materials, I've already touched on that again. That's where you're going to be working with Shelly on helping figure out where those materials are, or if you're in one of the other areas of the waste exchange, one of the other gals. So I'm not going to keep talking on that. Letters of support. So letters of support are big. Again, it shows to the review committee that you have people behind it. At a minimum, at an absolute minimum, you should be having your mayor, council members, those people writing letters of support. The Iowa Waste Exchange, you want them out there again to take a look at your project. That letter of support, you're not actually going to see that when they send directly to me. I can tell you with full honesty and confidence that over 98, shy 99% of the buildings are always recommended in favor of getting the grant. I believe there's only two or three since I've taken over this project or program. The building was not derelict enough. It was actually in too good of shape. So they were just looking to do some minimal, more cosmetic, if you will, renovations. And the rep indicated that. So again, they will send that to us, but you want to have those attached to your application, those letters of support. 3 bids are required for funding. So whatever you are getting funded for, one of the most successful projects, it was a pretty big one, I believe, was Sac City up in western Iowa. It was the old school there. They needed asbestos inspection, asbestos abatement. They wanted to deconstruct 2/3 of the building, and then the portion that was left, they were renovating it and making it a local gym. And they had a very well thought out, very aggressive plan, and that was great. They were probably the highest funded project since I have done this, to the tune of around $128,000 we gave them towards that. But for each of those activities, they had to secure 3 bids, minimum 3 bids. So they showed for the asbestos inspection, here's company ABC, LMNOP, XYZ, and so on and so forth for those. So very important to show those. You do not have to go with the lowest bid. You don't have to go with somebody local. It's truly your choice. We just want to see those bids. One of the most common questions I get, hey, Reid, we can't find 3 people local, 3 companies local. That's fine. There's plenty of them down here in Des Moines. So go ahead and call or email them. And what they will do is they will send it back, hopefully an email, and say, you're too far, our schedule's too full. So what that does is you take that email and you attach it to your application, and then that way, when it's in front of that review committee, they can show that you actually made an effort to get those 3 bids. A lot of times cities don't get 3 bids. They only send in the 2. And again, it only hurts you because it looks like you didn't make an effort to get 3 bids. Even though that's not always the case. So again, I have 5 individuals that are on that review committee for the most part. And the reason I say most part is there is one person that does run another program that sometimes cities match up with, but for the most part, they don't know city A from city B. They only can see what's right in front of them at the time. So what you put on that application, the supporting documents that you put with it, it's one of the most purest reviews that we can get it to. They review it individually, and then together we come together and then we talk about it. And obviously we rank them out, and then we just start going down the funding. So project 1, if we funded at 50,000, now we have 350,000 left. Project 2, we funded X amount, and we just go until the money's gone, is how it works. If you don't get funded the first year, well, either way, if you get funded or not funded, you're going to get a call from me within a day or 2 after the review committee meets. And I'm either saying, hey, congratulations, you've received funding. And then now you probably won't hear from me for about 2 to 3 months, because depending on your level of funding, I have to go through certain levels of approval. Anything under 25,000, I can keep in-house, so to speak, with my supervisor and director. But anything over that, I have to go in front of the Environmental Protection Committee. Again, it's a check and balance part of the government to make sure that, no favoritism was shown, or a city wasn't delinquent or out of compliance in some other issue, and now we're funding them. So again, when we start getting higher dollars, there's more steps that I have to take. I talked about that SHPO. I also verify with them, that, hey, ABC city said they're not on your list, but are they? No, they're not, so there's a lot of verifications. So around June, if you receive if you are approved, then around June, you'll receive a draft grant from me. We'll go through it. We'll talk through it, make sure everything is in line. You'll sign it, we sign it, and then July 1st, the work starts. If you did not get funded that year, you will receive a letter from me. And I, again, am very direct, very specific about things. I will say, city XYZ, the reason you weren't funded is because you did not have a good plan and you only submitted 1 bid for the deconstruction. And, so please reapply next year. We do have quite a few that come back the second year and reapply. I would say it's almost a guarantee. It's about a 95% or higher that most of you get funding the second year you reapply, because now you understand exactly what we're looking for. So color photos, easily the outside of the building, and then on the inside of the building, if possible. And what I mean by that is, if the flooring's falling down or the ceiling's coming in, it's not safe to be in, don't go in the building. But if you're able to go up to a window and maybe just stick your arm in, send us those pictures. Again, I know I use this analogy. Please keep the pictures to a minimum in that. Typically on something like this, we only need about 4 to 6 pictures of the building. I had a case once where a school applied. You know how many rooms are in a general school? That particular applicant went in, gave me 4 directions of each room. So that report was over 120 some pages. That it's just not necessary. I just need a representation of, here's one of like our elementary rooms. Here's the gymnasium. Here's the cafeteria. You know, it's something maybe of different material on the outside. So don't overdo it on the photos, please. And then cash match only. Again, reimbursable on that. We want to see the work done. The caveat is I do not need to see a canceled check. So that's one of the benefits of using a local contractor. If they can float you a little bit, by the time that we get the final report and your final grant expense sheet back, it's normally up to 60 days or 2 months that you'll have your money. Again, we do not need to see a canceled check on that. So that is kind of one of the workarounds for those type of things. I'm going to go very quick through some of these examples. It might help spark an idea. City of Rockford, the reason I have a picture of this one, here's the before, here's the after. They did a 2-step approach. So City of Rockford came the first year, said, hey, Reid, we need asbestos inspection and abatement. Second year, deconstruction. So that's kind of what that one looks like. Very straightforward, very easy project. City of Miles, what you notice is there's no after on this one. This one was very unique. What we have here is the front of the building with our city clerk, Brenda. Awesome person. We have the telephone company off to the right, and we have the neighbor from HE double hockey sticks on the right over here. The telephone company's on our left. The nuisance neighbor was on the right. The reason I bring this up is if you see on the second picture, you can see this is the neighbor's building. See how it's actually leaning. They shared partway back, they shared a wall and everything. This project took over 2 years to actually do. This neighbor dug in, raised holy heck. I went to a couple city council meetings. They, I believe, had turnover of 3 mayors on this one. The reason I bring this up, make sure you're very upfront and honest about what's going on. In fact, City of Rockford here, this is the Farm Bureau. They were concerned about, and the city's like, oh no, we're gonna reshore up your wall. So the city worked with this company and put this wall back in with them on this part, if you can see that. So, but anyway, it's not always the easiest. And again, we can do extensions. The city kept trying to make things go forward. At the end of the day, I still claim it's a successful project. We did have to modify a little bit. We did end up agreeing to leave the foundation along that shared wall so that the neighbor's building won't collapse. So it's just one of those things. City of Coon Rapids, the reason I'm showing you this one, we work with the cities. You've heard me say this time and time again. We're working only with the city clerks, with the mayors or whoever identified as the city. So when you get that grant, we are contracted through the city. However, the city of Coon Rapids and other ones out there have a local economic development group. So they were the drivers behind it. So even though the city, all the paperwork funneled through, it just went from their email over the economic end of it, which is totally fine. So they had that agreement there. And what you see here was a deconstruction and a renovation. So this before, they're taking this back half of this building off here. They saved the front half, made it a parking lot. Again, a very successful project on that. So, but again, I also wanted to point that out. I pretty much was working directly with the local economic group there of Coon Rapids. It was a highly successful project. But again, all the paperwork had to go through the city on that one. So, and then here's the last one. You heard me talk about if you have 2 buildings. So this is City of New Market. And they said, well, Reid, it's only one project. Well, yes and no, because as you can see, yes, they share a wall, but look at the building materials. So our building on the left, it has different materials than our building on the right. They're clearly built in two different time eras, that sort of thing. So if you have a project like this, it has to be two applications. So we'll just call this 101 and 103 Main Street to keep it easy. So you're submitting for that. But a lot of times people are so concerned, what if I don't get funded? What if I only get funded for one and not the other? It's not our first time around the block on our trike here at the DNR and the review committee. We understand that. So what I can say to it is you're either going to get funded for both or you're going to get funded for none of it, is how it's typically going to work. It's not like you're going to write one grant and it's going to be outstanding and the other one's going to be poor that it won't get funding. So we want to make sure it's worth everybody's time, because we understand when that companies are coming out to do your inspections, doing your work, you're only paying that one mobilization fee. However, what you need to do is you need to treat each building individually. So you need to be communicating with that contractor on there, specifically a deconstruction, because everything is based on weight. So as they work on 101, those have to go across the scale. Those receipts have to be saved and tallied for that building. Then the same has to be done. You still owe me 2 reports, because again, I'm giving you 2 buildings worth of money. So the expectation is that you're getting back those 2. I know I went through a lot of information, but in the interest of time, I think there'll be questions at the end after Dalton. Here is my information. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm still kind of old school. I like to talk on the phone. So a lot of times when I get your email, what'll probably happen is you'll probably receive a phone call from me. We'll sit and visit, and then I'll send you an email recapping what we talked about. So again, this will be all sent out to you, but this again is my information.
Great. Thanks so much, Reid. Dalton, feel free to go ahead and share your presentation or talk about your experience.
Okay, let's see if I can. Let's go. You guys see my screen?
Yes, it's still in the PowerPoint before the presentation mode.
Alrighty, I'll go through this kind of quick. So this is just kind of a eagle or looking down on the project, kind of on the top left hand of the screen or the picture. You can see where the project was. It's been without a roof for a number of years prior to taking it down. And this is our Main Street district, kind of going along there. The building had been used as a bank when it was built in the early 1900s. It operated there till about the 70s when they built the building across the street, which is now our city hall. After they moved, they did some miscellaneous businesses in there and an apartment building, things like that. There used to be an apartment building above that was taken out in the 60s, which you can see in the building in the picture on the left. And then 2 pictures on the right are pictures we submitted for the Derelict building grant application prior to full deconstruction. We climbed up. We've got a shared wall issue. We took some pictures of the neighbor's building just to kind of show the state before they started deconstruction and make sure we weren't liable for anything with them. And then kind of going through some pictures of Iowa Demolition taking down the building. You can see the shared wall that we ended up leaving for right now. The previous owner did do some work himself and diverted some materials prior to us getting it. He was gracious enough to give us this building here a while back. This is more inside. You can see it's been open to the elements for a while. We had a couple 4 or 5 foot trees growing in the basement. You can see back here the original door safes for the bank, which we still have. They're really kind of neat to operate. more pictures of the deconstruction, bio demo. Clear in the back, there is a part of that shared wall that is not actually part of his building, so we ended up cutting it and taking it down, so there wasn't about 30 feet of just single brick wall just hanging out back there. And then after they were completed, they left us with this area that we're planning on building a business incubator. In this area, we're just kind of waiting for some funding options to come available and see where those kind of put us. So it was a great experience for us to work with everybody to get this grant to go forward. I really appreciated everybody's time and response to everything. That's really all I have. Unless anybody's got a question directly for me. Hopefully that worked.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dalton. So now that we're done with the presentations, let's open it up to Q&A. So feel free to unmute yourself or to type in any questions you might have into the chat. So we have a question on, can you expand some more about the cash match?
Sure. So again, I know I went through that fairly quickly. The way that the cash match works, again, if you go to our website, you can see on there, depending on which I call them buckets or areas, if you will. So we have 7 different areas that we can help fund you on that project. Most of it'll be up to a certain amount, and then it's normally a match. So again, if we're doing deconstruction on there, we're asking you to get 30% of diversion. So specific to deconstruction, everything has to go across a scale. So you want to make sure you're talking to your contractor. Literally everything needs to be weighed. What a lot of projects do is they work with the local elevator in town, and then when they go across, they have those scale tickets, and then they just set up a simple Excel spreadsheet. So it would say November 4th, 2 dump truck loads, 10 tons each, if you will, and then the time. So again, let's just keep I'm all about keeping things simple and easy. So if our dump trucks weighed 10 tons worth of material and we had 10 of them for the whole project, 9 of them went to markets that Shelly identified, but 1 had to go to the landfill, then you have a 90% diversion on that. So on that scale, again, you want to get over 71%. So we would pay $75,000 of your $100,000 project, and then you would have to pay $25,000 to your contractor. So again, I can't stress it enough. It's all reimbursable. It's on the backside. You're not getting checks up front because we have to make sure that the work is getting done. Did that answer your question? Or is there another specific? Yep. Awesome. Okay. Again, I can talk briefly about a couple things that just come to mind. The last Friday in February, I think I still need to get our website updated, but specifically these grants are going to be due February 27th of 2026 by close of business. Emailing them. So electronic copy is basically how we accept them anymore. We don't really take snail mail or the hard paper anymore. So we do ask that those come in. Again, on that application, you're going to want to have that whole package, those support letters and what have you. If you receive funding, another question that we get a lot is, well, we initially wanted to go with ABC contractor, but now we want to go with XYZ. Again, that is fine. That is totally fine that we have that. So thank you to Shelly. She just dropped in the link in the chat, it looks like, for that. So
Oh, wait,
So
we
I
have
have
a
a
few
quick question.
minutes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I
Go
have a
ahead,
quick
Reid.
question for, I don't know, the 12, for the dozen of you still on. I don't know if you can just maybe do a reaction, raise your hand type of thing, but how many of you have buildings that come to mind that would fit this program? Again, if in the chat, if you just give a thumbs up or something, just so I can see. Yep. Okay. Yeah, we do. Nice. Yeah, so they're out there for sure. Um, Also, I'm gonna give one other plug to one of the other programs, since I'm not really seeing too much else coming in for questions. As you remember, when I first introduced myself, one of the other programs I run is the Food Storage Capacity Grant. So when you go out to our DNR website and you're looking here, if you play around on there, you can also, there's also a link for that. What that is we literally will buy you a refrigerator, freezer, or shelves, just the units themselves. We do not pay for warranty, installation, or delivery. But if you have a local food pantry that is struggling, we can help with refrigerators, freezers, or shelving to those. The idea there again is one of the top things that go into our landfill is organics, specifically food. So it is our attempt again to try and keep usable food out of the landfills and getting it to those people that need it. Some of the most common partners that we work with are churches, also schools. We do not allow it to go into the main lunchroom because there's, I believe, a USDA has grants for that, but a lot of times it's by your counselor's office for your backpack programs down by your gym. So when your athletes are done with practice, they can open the fridge and take out milk and cheese sticks or whatever is left over from the day that a lot of times the elementary kids didn't eat up or whatever. That program, I believe, is about 4 years old, and we were still trying to figure out, funding caps and levels. So currently, we will fund you up to $5,000 per ask. It is not and I see is there a minimum? No. In fact, one of the groups that I work with, they get residential refrigerators. On that, it's a lot of times a refrigerator that we do ask that the residential ones are Energy Star rated or whatever the current going term is for that. But we can give you $900, $800 if you just need basic shelving. I've funded Waterloo schools, all 18. I think they had 18 applications come in, $400 per ask on those. Up to 5,000, there is no match on that. But then again, anything over 5,000, we do not. It's for you to fund. You can come back multiple times on that program and get funded. On the fiscal year this year, we're funding up to 25 or $250,000 for that. Once it's gone, I do anticipate that it will reopen again on July 1st. Most likely with another $250,000 if we have a little bit more money, we might put more money into it. As of now, I believe I've written almost 3 dozen grants for that, and the average ask is right around $3,000. So again, that's if you have that in mind of a food pantry, that might be a program that you want to check out. And again, thank you to Shelly. She dropped the link in the chat for you on that. So.
Okay, awesome. So we're kind of at time, but I'll ask any last questions, any last remaining questions before we wrap up. Oh, someone's typing.
While Angie is typing out, I just want to thank you all for having us and signing in today to learn a little bit about our programs.
Yeah, thanks, Shelly. Okay, I'm hearing no other questions, so that concludes our webinar. Thank you so much again to our presenters and to everyone joining us today. Watch out for an email from me sending you a link as well as presentation slides. So with that, have a good afternoon, everyone, and please apply to the Derelict Building Grant and other DNR grants. Thank you.